Hey everyone, welcome back to Crypto Cash. Thank you for joining me here. Hope you're having a fantastic day. I want to start by saying thank you very much for always hitting that like button. I'm not being sarcastic when I say that. So we actually got a lot more likes per video now ever since I've been asking for it every single time. So sorry if I'm a broken record there, but I really appreciate you doing that. Helps grow the channel because it's ridiculous how low the views are based on how low interaction is on my videos. So thank you again for just being an awesome part of my life. And also thank you too for the wonderful feedback too. I know we took some nice profit on our short position here with SUI over the weekend, or SUI over the weekend. That was nice. Almost considered a short yesterday at this 343 mark that we talked about and mentioned specifically we need to see a candlestick closure, a daily closure above that level. We didn't see that, therefore the price turned around. Well, it's not exactly the reason why it happened. It's just a good confirming factor that we need to look for when taking trades. That's confirmation at its best, and oftentimes it comes at key level supports and resistances. All that being said, we're in a short position right now with Bitcoin. We're shorting at 95K, and our take profit target's right around 92.9 or 93,000 as a rough estimate. I'm not interested in shorting this coin just yet, but I might be if we see a retest of that 343. However, you got to recognize too, if we retest 343, we might break it. So let's talk about this here. First of all, liquidation is telling us here that 310 is the next target. So there's tremendous amount of late longs here at 310 to 315. In other words, they obviously have high leverage, which is ridiculous to me, but they are part of the problem at this point here, effectively creating a lot of liquidation on the downside, incentivizing the whales to be like, okay, whoop, we're going to hit you hard next. So just be mindful there's that. That's just locally. When it comes to a macro perspective, $2.60 to $3, I've talked about this for a week now. This may be on the chopping block here soon if we see that $3 mark. Granted, $3 is a solid support range based on psychological support and resistance, depending on which side we're on. But the key takeaway here is that if we get close to $3, what's to stop the market makers just from driving the price down just to destroy those late longs or early longs, and more effectively just close out all those positions. If we take a look here, liquidation delta is high to the downside. We have 600 million more in short liquidation cost, or that's how much is effectively in the market right now on one exchange, by the way, to the downside, implying that a lot of shorts are in play, and you don't generally want to try to take a long against that. I know this coin can be contradictory in that sense, where oftentimes you do opposite of what seems to be logical, and it works just fine because this coin will recover quickly. However, I've noticed that when we have these types of divergences, it may recover quickly, but it will run to the downside a lot faster than you might like. Okay, and that really just implies that low leverage is king, or more importantly, low position size in case you do get stopped out on a very greedy play. All right, you don't want to get greedy in this coin. I would say if we're going to get greedy, we're going to be greedy in the low to mid $2 range. Right now, I think being greedy in the low threes is not really a sensible call. When we look at open interest, we can recognize $3 and $2.90 are those two next areas of concentration. Not a whole heck of a lot below us. So that was part of the reason why I mentioned that if we don't close above 343, that heavy concentration of open interest, then we're going to be in a position where we're going to continue lower, and we are. Okay, we saw a lot of resistance there. Okay, cool. So that's the obvious there. Let's take a quick look here. In future reference, this is if we closed above, right? If you close above 343, then we could have seen further upside. Granted, that was under the impression Bitcoin also didn't pull back as it did, right? So overall, that's kind of where we're at there. But future reference, curious about my playout charts on my Twitter, Telegram, and Discord. Like, how do I interpret this? Well, generally speaking, the dashed line is more likely to play out than the dotted line. Okay, it's thicker, therefore more likely to occur. That's how my mind works, anyways. Daily time frame. We can recognize here that we're over and under the 200-day SMA. That's kind of the last line of defense. We're still in a good ascending trend overall, so bear in mind the daily time frame is not terrible. It's going to show a lot of divergences, and we're shifting momentums, which is absolutely true. We're officially diverging on the MACD, stochastic swinging down. We're in a position right now where everything's pointing down. The key takeaway, though, is that we got some moving averages moving up, and we're still establishing higher highs, so to speak. But it's a very monumental run in just a 4-day period, so anything could happen, honestly. But we are entering a support range here between 290 and 310. That's kind of that support range for us. So at the 4-hour time frame, what is this going to tell us? Well, this is telling us we have more divergences. Pretty much everything is telling us we're going to go down. Stochastic swinging down, MACD's diverging, 4-hour time frames under 50 for the RSI. Money flow index is above the price, but that's only because we saw a bit of an influx here recently with the price pushing up. So that's a false positive. I don't want to buy into that, and you shouldn't either. If you're using some some crazy indicators that include MFI, be mindful that can be a false positive. You kind of got to pay attention. I'll probably make a video on money flow index so people can understand how to use it more effectively, but it can be used perfectly or it can be used terribly, just depending on the overall circumstance. But the key takeaway here is that we're in a descending trend, okay? So let's just, if you're gonna take anything away from this video, take this away here and just note that we're in a descending trend. We keep establishing lower lows while double bottoms are definitely playouts that could occur, right? We're definitely seeing something like that becoming structured. If we don't break this local high of 343 or just this descending trend line in the first place, none of that matters, okay? Some people seem to think that, indicators, or sorry, patterns are just like the bee's knees. Oh, some idiots, a YouTuber said, we got a double bottom. I'm gonna take a long right now with everything I got. Probably shouldn't do that. I hope I can never be that idiot for you, but I can tell you that I'll never be an idiot in general because I don't like to take trades that are higher risk based on a support level that may or may not hold when Bitcoin's pulling back and there's so many signs in the market that we're going to go lower. Okay, that just doesn't make a lot of sense. Cool. I hope that you take a long here and it works out for you. But my problem with that is that people seem to think that that's how trading works. They get lucky once or twice and they start making the same mistakes over and over again and they never learn. So anyways, that's why people come to my community. I'm not upset with it. I love helping people out of the trenches and getting them back on track, but it's kind of annoying on my part when people keep asking ridiculous questions because they've just learned from other emotional idiots. Okay. So anyways, that's conversation for another day. I hope you understand what I mean by that. I always have your best interest in mind when I say these things too. I hope I'm not being crude, but somebody has to say it because everyone else is just telling you the price is going to go up. At least that's what I hear from my community. Okay. Anyways, the conversation here is that the narrative is down. There's no other way around it. Until we close above 343 or higher, there's no real consideration to take a long. My thought process here, outside this local point of control, once again at 343, is this upper or lower lead on the cloud at 332. So I think the low 330s would be a good consideration for a short if we even make it there. But keep this in mind. If you look at the hourly time frame, look at how poorly SUI is combined with Bitcoin. Bitcoin's ramping up here, probably a false positive there. And we can see SUI is kind of stuck on stupid. So when that happens, it means that the market makers got their teeth sunk in here and they're just pushing the price action wherever they see fit. Because a lot of idiots are going to be just jumping into these late longs because they like this coin. Market makers love emotional people, okay? So try not to be one of those persons. Easier said than done, I get it. I get emotional too on occasion, but I do what works best for me to mitigate that. I take a walk, I take a break, I don't get stuck on the charts. Anyways, I hope you learned something today. Thanks so much again for joining me here. Once more, always like the content. Help all my content over here on Twitter, Telegram, and Discord. It's amazing how much stuff goes through without a single like on it, but yet everyone seems to comment and mention they appreciate it. So I thank you so much. Do yourself a favor. Join us over at Bitunix between now and May 14th. There's an awesome deposit reward bonus. Pretty easy money here, folks. And this goes for everyone who's used my link to register in the past, too. It's quite a lot of you. All right, have a good rest of your day. Thanks again for your time. We'll see you soon. Take care.